All right, welcome everybody from wherever you are joining us across America, representing colleges, and no doubt from all the states and maybe even some of the territories. We're excited to be putting on this webinar today. My name is Brian Bailey, I'm the VP of Community Colleges at Enrollment Burning Glass, and I have the great privilege of rejoining my colleague Michelle Rodriguez, and this time bringing Adam Kaiser on board to talk about a very important subject relative to community colleges, and then taking a little bit of a deeper dive, peeling the onion back just another layer past enrollment to find out where can we start to leverage our attention, our activities, and focus on the connections with the school districts in and around your community colleges, and how are you servicing, as we're talking about in this case, that enrollment pipeline. Enrollments have been down, as you know, across the U.S., in aggregate. The colleges that we work with, though, that have indicated they've seen enrollment increases, funny enough, it's in that dual enrollment space. So that continues to be a population that community colleges are focusing on for new students to fill the pipeline and to increase enrollments. And I am so delighted to have really two subject matter experts in the room. I'll let you guys both just make a quick introduction. But before we do that, a couple quick housekeeping things. We are recording this session, so if you're a part of this and aren't able to stay till the end, you can go back and view the recording later. That'll be emailed out to you. It'll also be available on Emsi Burning Glass's website for you to view. We do have a quick poll that's gonna be prompted during the slides. So if you're inclined to participate and give your feedback, we would ask that you would just respond in that poll as well. We do have a chat feature, so if you have any additional questions that you would like for the panelists to address, Michelle and Adam are going to be ready and equipped to answer any of your questions or take a deeper dive with some of the processes they're using to make those connections. So without further ado, Michelle, I'll have you go first, and then Adam, if you could follow, and then we'll get right into this.
Well, hello, Burning Glass world. Hello from Texas. I'm a coordinator here at South Texas College. I'll give you a little preview of where we're at, but Adam
Kaiser with Laramie County Community College in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I've been working with Emsi Burning Glass for about 3 years, and I'm really excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
All right, is that the slide you wanted, Michelle?
That's the one. And so, I wanted to give you out there a little preview of our area where we're servicing students in our communities here. We are on most campus locations about a 10-15 minute drive to Mexico. So the areas that we service are really, traditional. I think you can go on to the next slide there, Brian. And so some of our vital statistics, of course, of who we serve here, we have over 28,000 students enrolled over those 7 campus locations, and not including, what we do with the dual enrollment program. Of course, it's easy to know that, 95% of our students are Hispanic, and more than 60% of those students are their population of the first time in college students. And so what we do with the dual enrollment, we have over some quite of time, been working with dual enrollment since 2000. And in that time, we have grown to about working with 15 different school districts, which puts us at about 70 schools. And per semester, we're working with about 13,000 to 16,000 students. And since its inception, we have saved families here in the region more than $280 million. And so, many of these conversations for our students in this region begin with the idea of go to college because you'll have a good job. And for the most part, that's how it's promoted in the high schools and in the conversations at home. And so we have always really worked with programs and services around the college, but we wanted to make sure that we were tackling challenges our students were having, because for the most part, it seemed that those conversations of go to college for a really good job ended there. And then students could, that process to become enrolled, whether as a traditional student or as a dual enrollment student or as an adult learner returning, that application process can be pretty ambiguous and intimidating. So the work of career services now, and we know that it didn't take the pandemic to understand that putting that focus back on getting a really good job, we had to put that back at the center, and it's been part of our work for the last 2-3 years, specifically with the dual enrollment programs, because we understand that this, coupled with those efforts, really can be enrollment drivers for the way that we're going to be leading, our regions and our communities here. And so to work through some of those challenges, for the most part, it was really declaring a major. And students at this point don't know themselves, let alone the process. And then how to make those programs, that learning, how does that turn into a job? How does that turn into work or really good pay and opportunity? Sometimes those challenges are understanding that if I have an idea and I'm really excited about this one type of career, how does that, what happens if that's a program that's not offered at the college? And then making sure that all those credits at the same time will transfer to another college or university that does that. And then, we worry a lot about our students who are graduating with the associates and sometimes, dual credits. How do those then become part of the college experience for them if they're still in high school? We wanted to pay attention to all of these to make sure that we were working through challenges. So it is an extremely dedicated partnership with that dual credit program that puts focus and our efforts behind that motivation to help students find that fit with career goals, but also give students something that, that we know for sure now with the young and old, and that's tied with purpose. As we've heard in a lot of the really great beers with Emsi's, we know that people aren't jumping right back into the work because now they're being a little bit more careful and intentional about where they put their time and money. And this has been a long conversation with families in the dual credit programs to help parents understand that, the things their children are excited about can lead into really great work. And so, that is a challenge for our first generation students. They face a lot of obstacles that can affect them academically. And so a lot of that we know is tied to that self-confidence in pursuit of those career goals. And so we know that when that's tied with purpose, it gives students that courage to have them open doors. It helps students become active in the classroom, on campus. They begin to seek these things out that they're excited about learning. And when they're excited about that, for us in the coming years, it means that they'll be more creative. They become better problem solvers in the work. And we know that that's going to be critical in the upcoming SANSDEMIC for our students to be able to do, multiple things well that can contribute to the growth of those jobs, the careers, and our region here. And so it is a very special blending, not only with the partnership in the program, but also the work of Career Coach. And so traditionally, so much of what Career Services did was sort of on the fringe of campus efforts. It was a resume, it was job fairs, but on the other side of that coin, it has always been about supporting the programs and services that prepare for the students in that world of work as well. And so to do that really well, it came in a model that is formatted around Career Coach. It is a plan, discover and explore, plan some more, and then prepare. And so that first step, a lot of what we have done or how we have modeled a lot of our efforts, events, and special programs for students and with the schools as well, is it begins with a career coach. And whether you are a new student, a returning student, going to graduate, thinking about dropping out, going to transfer, our conversation in career services here at South Texas College always begins with a career coach, because we know that students are changing their ideas, or they're not really quite sure. And so we want to make sure that in this process, especially for dual enrollment, as they're going through those classes, as they mature through some of these ideas, that it is still something that they want to do. And so Career Coach helps them have those conversations with mom and dad, because mom and dad, guardian, they're looking at, are there going to be jobs here in the next year? Is that something that's going to pay? And it gives them the option then to explore those similar careers. I love that feature because some of those conversations with students really had them evolve to, this was something I wanted to do, I'm not sure anymore. And then this was something that then we still saw through the pandemic last year. A lot of students who were currently attending, this was over and over a conversation to make sure, is this going to be something that is pandemic proof? What can we do? Where do these skills then apply to something else if I'm not sure? And then this brings that conversation back to reflect with teachers and counselors in the classroom. We know that students don't seek out career service. Anybody here in career services know that students don't come to us until it's, I call it sort of like a prescription to I'm having trouble, versus already having that access in the classroom with the instructors, with the counselors, with the teachers. 42%, I think, was the last number that I had seen, was where students find most of their advice, where they take, where they're inspired, where they're asking those questions. And so it's valuable to have Career Coach part of our services, so much embedded in the work that's happening with teachers and counselors. And this is a really big part for what we do with the dual enrollment programs, is that it becomes part of that teaching and learning process with counselors, advisors, teachers in the school districts, anybody who's working with students to help them in that application process to those dual enrollment academies. Once they've completed that, they can connect to events like our Jaguar Experience, Declare a Major Day, whatever the event we hold. We usually will encourage students to begin with the Career Coach, because then it can connect them specifically to the programs that they want to see, or programs of interest that may align with a transfer program to another college or university. And then it puts them into that explore experience as well, with some of the efforts that the college does here in the academies and summer programs that give students those hands-on activities, and make sure that that's something that they want to continue to pursue. And then we go back to that plan again. At the end of that, if they're getting involved or they're changing majors, transferring. And one of the really great features, again, of Career Coach and the efforts of Emsi and Burning Glass, is the companies posting these jobs. And so it may not seem like that's something that students are specifically interested in. We don't have them look at companies posting these jobs in Career Coach because they need a job. We have them look because a lot of the times these local employers or companies who are posting the jobs have internships, have scholarships, and we want students to start making those connections early on so they can get a sense of the culture and community for that type of work. It's designed to help them connect. And so we know that these career interventions in academics assures that all students have access to these networks of opportunities, regardless of their background or their social capital. But we know that to take that conversation from what career services typically does of the resume, we do all of that fun stuff, of course, but we want to make sure that by the time students get there, that they're, have that purpose, they're tied to that connection. And more now than ever, people are really looking for those meaningful efforts to amplify the work that the college does. And so it is really a groundwork, but a lot of it doesn't happen without what we use Career Coach here for at South Texas College.
Thank you, Michelle. I'd love to hear from Adam. We're already getting questions in the chat already relative to some of the things, and I know I even have some questions for you already. Did you want me to finish through? Did you have any more points there, or should I shift over to Adam?
Sure, and South Texas College, we really are working as hard as we are. We were the first in Texas to receive that NACEP accreditation. And so, the work that we're doing really has huge implications for how we impact the quality of lives for our regions. And it's important to us to become a model of these best practices. And that was just something I wanted to mention. And so it's really exciting for us in the dual enrollment programs to do that well for our students.
Perfect. Oh, great. Led right into it. Adam, thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle. In hearing that, Laramie County Community College in Cheyenne, Wyoming can't be too much different than Texas. I like that map because you see all the schools that you serve. Being in the middle of Wyoming, we serve a lot less. So as a county, so we're a Laramie County Community College. We have about 91,000 students, 91,000 people. At Laramie County Community College, we hover right around 3,000 to 2,700 students. And then our school district, so the main school district that we serve is around 12,000. So one of the agreements that we have is that Wyoming only has one college. We only have the University of Wyoming, but we also have a community of 8, I think it's 8 community colleges across the state. So we have to stay kind of within our area. Moving on, we also have, Brian, if you can go to the next slide for me. So we are a Pathways 2.0 school. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that from the Aspen Institute. And so when we started this project, which is also what led us into using Career Coach, we had over 100 different programs. So if you can imagine sitting down a student, giving them a list of 100 different programs, and then asking them to figure out what they want to do with the rest of their life, it was a little overwhelming. So we went through a lot of work in figuring out how to pare those down so that we came up with 8 different pathways. As you can see, it's kind of your classic pathways of IT, tech, that area, trades, health sciences. So within those pathways, one thing that became really apparent to us was that how do we let students know what opportunities they can have if they go into that pathway? And so that was kind of the initial conversation of how do we convey that to students? And one of the things that came from our faculty side of it was that how do we not only say what opportunities they have, but how do we give local and relevant information for our region, which is something that we've never done as a community college before. And we also had that conversation of, if you get your associates in psychology, we can't be telling students that they can then go back into being a clinical psychologist, right? So if a student comes back and says, hey, you guys promised me that I could be a psychologist through your institution and I could make $112,000 a year, these were the type of things that we wanted to avoid. So in knowing Career Coach and Emsi and Burning Glass at the time, we found the solution that Career Coach would allow us to not only show people what kind of opportunities they have within each pathway, but also give a really good idea of how viable their associate's degree will be after they graduate. So it was fantastic for us. And in building that pathway, what happened for us was that we talked to our local school district, and they had been using the Cooter assessment for years. So if you go to the next slide, we're very blessed within Wyoming to have the Hathaway Scholarship. So we have $400 million endowed a little ways back. So each student, as long as they do the basics of taking care of a few prerequisites and getting pretty decent grades and ACT scores, they can get between $840 to $1,600 per semester to go to Wyoming schools. So it's a fantastic opportunity. But what's exciting for us is that they have mandatory career exploration within that system. So in 8th grade, they have to take a career assessment to see what they're interested in. And then toward their junior and senior year, they also go back in to look at it. And in the past, the school district has used Cooter, which if some of you guys have used that assessment tool, you know that it's very similar to what we offer with Career Coach, but it's also extremely hard to work with as far as remembering passwords, students locking themselves out. So what ended up happening with this pathway that we built is that the Laramie County School District decided to take Career Coach as their assessment tool for Hathaway. And so every student within the school district uses Career Coach multiple times throughout their stay through college or through high school, hopefully into college, right? And what has been really amazing for us is that it allows students starting at 8th grade to identify which pathway would be the best fit for them. So you imagine 8th graders starting, they really like trades and technical. In 8th grade, they're searching for trade and technical education, which goes through LCCC, and they're also seeing what kind of jobs they can get outside of that. So really from 8th grade on, they know what pathway they want to go into, they know their career, and they know how viable it is in Wyoming to have that career. So it's something that the school district has been really, really excited about. It saved them a lot of money on their Cooter subscriptions. So each school had to have their own subscription system. We were able to offer a career coach to them for free since it's an open program, and their students are able to know their pathway. So now when they go into high school, when they start looking at extracurricular activities, they can choose their extracurriculars based on their pathway. So if they know that they're arts and humanities student, their course catalog for the high schools has arts and humanities as a pathway, and they can see what extracurricular activities work for that pathway. And then our hope is, as this continues to grow, is that then we'll go into the high schools, help say the DECAs and the FFAs and things like that with our faculty and our staff, so that students not only know their pathway early going to LCCC, but they also know our staff, and they also know our faculty really early in the process. So it's something we've been really proud of, and we're starting to see the results of students knowing their path earlier and not switching between pathways when they get here.
Thank you, Adam and Michelle, for those. I'm going to start with a couple of questions. My first question, Michelle, is for you. You mentioned the 7 different campuses that South Texas College has, and that I think you said you service 15 school districts. Was that correct? Okay, talk to us a little bit about, and maybe for the audience to learn more, how does the approach vary as you're talking to that many different school districts? And Adam, I don't know, how many school districts are you servicing total? Is it just one in the county, or?
Officially, it's two different school districts.
Okay, so I imagine there's folks on the call that kind of can fall into both categories, where there's a lot of school districts or maybe just a couple. What's been an on-ramp for you guys? And Adam, you kind of covered it a little bit, but I'll start with you, Michelle, to kind of start those conversations. And what's been the importance of developing and furthering those relationships with the school districts?
Absolutely. And so, you know, I know that a lot of career centers know that there's never enough staff to do the amount of work, whether it is with 2 school districts or with 15, and then across the campus locations that we have, or to do so even virtually. And so it has been just an effort that comes with, you know, connecting with all the advisors or connecting with all the counselors in a certain district. And this is usually maybe like a counselor summit or a professional development day for those who are enrolled with the dual credit programs, administrators on those levels, to really have a time and space to let them know that this is an opportunity. I love that Laramie Community College has only just the one, because the challenge has been, for the most part, to really sort of pull people away from the things that they've always done. And so what's helpful is the work that Career Coach does, when we can use those live demonstrations to let students know, or let the administrators know at the high schools, what the power of Career Coach can do. And that really lends itself then to conversations with parents who are, you know, have students who are enrolling in these programs. And so it has been a lot of presenting, a lot of conversation. It has been a lot of developing of our own materials of, you know, the best practices, or how we can get students to do really well in classes, and to give parents and families the confidence that they need. A lot of the time, and the reason that it's valuable to share the information is because, you know, our students have so many stresses, not just through the pandemic, but also with what's happening in the region, DACA students, and, you know, what happens in politics to those things. And so these are stresses that their families are feeling, and so it's important to bring them into the fold as students are making those decisions. But we have to share that with the high schools, and to make sure that they have a really good resource, and that, as you said, Adam, it's not just because you told me that it was going to be there, but that it's real data, that it's something that they can see, and it just makes it so much easier to communicate our efforts when it shows up that way.
Yeah. Adam, any thoughts on that, or response to what Michelle has said as far as how you're creating up more and further on-ramps with the school districts?
The key to ours was the idea that we were there to help the career counselors within the schools. So we have a tool, we have a system within Pathways, so that we know how busy they are. They have caseloads of 600 to 700 students in some schools, right? So we were able to say, hey, you put your kids through Career Coach, let them do the assessment. We'll look at the results, and if we have a student that's interested in the trades and technical pathway, we'll be sending the student that information from us. So in a way, it helped the career counselors also understand that they have a partner within the community colleges, and that we're not just contacting them for recruitment. We're actually doing career exploration with them, which is a big sell point for our district in general to help adopt it.
Michelle, you mentioned in yours that it's not doing it the way we've always done it. How have things changed? Even like you said, it's even pre-pandemic, but like, how has the experience changed for the student? And do they ask different questions, or is it similar questions, but our processes have changed? So kind of as you guys have seen the changes over time, what have been some of those key ways that you've adapted or helped the K-12s adapt to better career exploration?
Yeah, absolutely. And so what really has changed is just to start implementing that career coach. So students weren't coming in, walking through an auditorium or through a convention center and just kind of exploring, or what I called sort of like this trick or treat method, where they walk in and pick up prizes off of the programs or the employers. But now it made it a little bit more intentional. So some of these formats included having them take that career coach assessment and then creating sort of like a program map. And the way that it's changed here, the way that we do put our efforts behind some of these program fairs, is that we started bringing in some of these industry partners, some of these employers that are on Career Coach, so that they could sit next to programs. And so students would then relate mathematics to meteorology or any other opportunities. So it just wasn't the one thing that they had to do. So often we run into those conversations, and we don't expect counselors and teachers to have all the answers. What am I going to do with a biology degree? I really like biology, but is it going to make money in 5 or 10 years, when I'm done? And so we wanted to make sure that in our efforts and planning these things, that students could see those career pathways. And Career Coach really lines that up, and it doesn't peg them to one specific thing. That Similar Careers gives parents the confidence to know that, she changes her mind a lot. What is going to happen if she doesn't want to do this one thing anymore? And it helps people have those conversations. And it has just not only for our high schools, but also for employers and industry partners who may not have known all the programs that we had at the college. And so they also then begin to see opportunity of where they can invest with our students. And it's doing so much for us in this way. And so we know that in changing the way that we put our time and energy into these things is going to begin to change the conversation. It's a slow process, but we're excited about evolving with the way that people are thinking now about school and work and how it's all connected, because we have so much responsibility now to our communities who are questioning, right? As we've known, is college worth it? And why can't I just do, what my mom says will make money, or what my dad has been doing, or a mom and pop thing? And so it really is giving us the confidence to, invest in programs with our students. And it's just a really shared process to do all of that. But it's slow moving, but it's happening. You can see that minds are changing, and people are really then excited to be involved in the work as well.
We've probably seen our biggest impact with not only our parents, but also our partners in the state. So Wyoming has a big problem with the brain drain. So we like to educate people. If you imagine, we put a lot of money into this Hathaway Scholarship as a state, and we're notorious for educating people and then sending them away, right? So having localized data and having students understand their earning potential has gone a long way, especially with how our parents feel about our programs and even our legislators, right? So if we keep producing art therapists, just to pick on one, I can show a student that we have 0 art therapy openings in Wyoming, and there's maybe 4 or 5 in the country, right? And so I think we've gotten a great response from people feeling that we're being more transparent about the type of programs that we're putting students into, and students are being more realistic about if they really want to stay in Wyoming and they want to stay next to their family. And I think COVID's shifted that a lot. If they're serious about doing that, they need to get a better idea of what kind of job would let them do that.
One of the things that I love hearing you talk, I posted something on LinkedIn recently, is like, what is your community college story? And then I responded to my own question. And it's interesting, both of you are saying, because, you know, of course, my family, they're like, Brian, you need to go to college, right? Like, you've got to do that. That's a box you need to check because that's going to equate to a better job. And what we're seeing in the labor market now, and I'm commenting to the fact that you're bringing up the parents and the families so much, is people need to develop specific skills. It's not just enough to have a degree or a diploma or certificate, but you really need to be able to communicate the skills that you have. And so I'm curious, how has this sort of like regionalized labor market, and you talked about kind of shifting the conversation slowly, Michelle, how has that, do you think, affected or impacted those conversations? And do you find that the parents are more engaged with that sort of data versus, you know, just, oh, my aunt said I should go into this, you know?
Yeah, you know, here in the region, a lot of what we see is the oil refineries, you know, Texas, you know, and so a lot of students see that as a really big opportunity to make money. But we know in bringing those conversations back home, our parents don't really want their kids to do something like that. It's backbreaking work. It's not consistent. It's, you know, not something long-term. It does make, you know, the money that it'll make, but it also doesn't go with the idea of what moms and dads want their kids. You know, that's not the typical idea of success from moms and dads. And so it's interesting because a lot of the conversations I was having when I was in high school, you know, what you mentioned is your college going experience at home. It's true. And so one of the things, one of the conversations that we had, you know, with that is that, you know, you can, you know, 50 years ago, if you were raised on a farm, you knew that you were farmers. And so it's really opening up the conversation with parents. And so a lot of our events, it is targeted to one group. So whether that is the dual enrollment, if that is the high school students, or even some of the middle schools and elementary students for these regions, parents are really getting excited and involved. We're seeing more of those questions where they say, you know, can I come also just to make sure, because it gets them excited and then becomes part of that support. It literally still takes a village to make our students succeed, in those conversations, in bridging that gap from the conversations at home with the employers and what the college is doing. It makes it so real when you see that happening. And so the parents have been really involved. And again, it goes back to making sure that everybody is part of that conversation, that they know that we have this resource, because if they don't come to us, we want them to be able to have that resource in the high schools with the counselors, the teachers, any of the program advisors for those programs in dual enrollment. And so it's important for us to put this at the center, the career services, that intent with the career coach. And so it's growing. And so we see that, and that's always very exciting for us.
I think the comparative piece for our parents has been really important. You know, you can always talk to your student about what they may or may not like different about different jobs, and based on the personality, or at least what you think you know about your 18-year-old. But the exciting thing is that they can actually they can save a few different jobs within Career Coach. They can look at the projected outcomes for that job going forward. They can look at the top rate of what they expect to earn in there, the growth potential for that industry. And I hope that parents are taking that step to do it. I know the school is doing it. I know we do it here at the college. So we try to provide those tools for parents also. The other really interesting thing that we're seeing is that parents are starting to use the tool in a different way as far as once they put their student into the tool. We were also having quite a few non-traditional students and parents using our resume builder. So that's another piece where they're starting to look and they're like, man, I wish I could make that kind of money as a dental hygienist, and they start to work on their own resume and their own search on jobs. So we're awful proud of that.
It's very good. That leads me to the next question. I just wanted to throw up a quick poll for everybody that's listening in, and then we'll get to a couple of questions that have been submitted here. But I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll real quick. If you want to go ahead and respond to that, and then that should close out once you say yes or no on that. So if you would like to learn more about how you can help boost enrollment at your institution using labor market data, then please go ahead and click yes, and we will be happy to do that. All right. Now, one of the things that stood out to me at the beginning of the webinar here, Michelle, with you, was around, you said the word believability. And you know, of course, we all relate some of these stories to our own educational journey. And I started at a local community college, which couldn't afford to go away, and lived at home with my parents right after high school. And so it made sense. But one of the things that happened was the CSU system, the California State University system, and the UC system had done a good job of kind of seeding and watering and planting and then nurturing the conversation. You talked about that. What's been one way that you're able to kind of facilitate that believability? And maybe it's just a reiteration of what you said, but what's been helpful in creating that level of believability, even when we look at, you know, all the way back to 8th graders? What do you think is making the difference for them, and how could our audience that's listening in kind of gain from that and maybe get a perspective?
You know, so what has helped me was that my career here at the college really began in professional development. And I came across a statistic there that we spend about, on average, 60 to 70% of our life at work, our day that we are awake, we're at work, 60 to 70%. And so that's something that in a lot of my conversations, and you're welcome to repeat this, folks, is that I will start a lot of my conversations with parents, with teachers and counselors and students, even my middle school students, to tell them that this is how long, you know, and for students that equates to how long you're in the classroom. And if in the classroom you're not excited, you don't feel like you can learn or be part of the solutions there, that becomes a really good habit then by the time we're adults and into this workforce, to just kind of go with the flow. And only dead fish go with the flow, folks. And so the believability there is that you could really be excited about art, or you could really be excited about somehow helping people and maybe not sure what that looks like. And so when they take that career coach, it really brings to light a lot of the opportunities that they have. And what's exciting about that part is that I didn't, you know, what they say, I didn't even know that that was a job. I didn't even know that could be a thing. And, you know, I tell people all the time, you know, how much of this is changing, and for us to be excited that our students are being curious about learning something. And so having that then come back and it's something real that they can see through the data, and that's just something that mom and dad said, or something that South Texas College said, but it's something that makes it really real for them. And I just wanted to comment that even in some of these conversations, as I'm going through Career Coach with my students, I'll see the teachers hop on their phones and then they start going through Career Coach as well. Or I've seen parents who get on the Career Coach too. You know, just to see then, you know, I know that it makes sense in those terms when we think about how much we invest of our waking lives at work and how much that means right now in that learning to develop really strong habits that we want to see, you know, for people that are working, you know, when we're going to retire, when we're putting our kids through school. I think it all then really starts to make sense about being on purpose with those decisions, and Career Coach really connects them to that. So, you know, that's just always so much that makes the work, you know, our efforts really then just part of what we're doing in my 60 to 70% of my life. So it's meaningful to me to do that. Yeah.
Adam, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think the part that really speaks to us is the matching piece of Career Coach. So for those of you that are not using it, when you take the assessment, it's like a dating app almost, and you get a percentage of how good a fit you are for each one. I can really see our students know what they want to do, right? Especially if you're in 8th grade, you have an idea. But when you get that match and you click on that first pathway and it opens up to all these different careers, that's the real fun for me to see them go not only from what they think they know, but also what their parents are doing into different things. So that's probably my favorite part of that exploration, is that it casts the net a little bit wider than their expectations.
Yeah, I was just talking to someone earlier today, and it seems like, and even for the student, right? It's not just more data. It's almost like we need tools that help us, you know, remove some of that data. And I feel like, you know, my personal journey was getting a bachelor's in communications and realizing if I wanted to work in public relations, I would have to move to a major metro, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, that sort of thing. And I wasn't necessarily interested in that. And so not knowing kind of what the job outcomes are afterward, you know, to your point, Adam, wanting to stay in Wyoming, you know, wanting to stay in Cheyenne, or wanting to stay in the South Texas region if I was from there. So how does that sort of information, do you believe, help kind of the students? Because it's one thing, it's broadening their perspective, all the while narrowing their perspective, if that makes sense. Like it's broadening it to like where the connections are, but then that broadening then allows them to kind of start to focus. And Michelle, you brought something up which I think is really interesting, is that initial entry point when the college is working with the K-12 is like a journey for the student. You know, it's the beginning of their educational pathway and what they're hearing from you guys about what's possible and what they can do. That's shifting the narrative in their own mind and causing that believability. So I liked hearing about that, because it makes sense, because you're actually teaching them how to think about their future. You're not just saying, oh, hey, here's jobs, go explore. You're teaching them the kinds of questions that they need to ask. So my question to you is, what are some of the different ways you've helped students ask the age-old questions in career services? And following that, what are any new questions that our audience might glean from you guys that you're helping students to ask?
You know, for those middle school students, they could be excited about 3 or 4 different things. And sometimes they really know they want to be a doctor, and we help them be really excited about what that looks like here to be a doctor, or to connect with, you know, industry partners or employers here in the region in some of those career days that we put together for them. But for those of them that don't, you know, I'm not sure. I really have enjoyed doing this one thing, but I'm excited about 3 other things. We help them think about, you know, so then, you know, where do you see that you could do a little bit of each, you know, the skills, looking and identifying some of the daily tasks. A lot of them, and I'll on law enforcement, you know, they think they're going to be out there and very exciting, but then when they look through those daily tasks, it's a lot of reporting, it's a lot of grading and writing, and you know, what if they don't like to do those things? And so really what we have started asking students in this process, in that time that we have with them, what is it that you're really liking about this type of work? You know, we've had students who say, I really like to be outside. I would love to do that, but, you know, I don't know what kind of job that might be. And so bringing those things to life through the career coach and helping them, you know, as Adam is saying, sort of match some of these skills from one to the next. And what's helping us with our high school students when they've gotten to that point, you know, the big one for me is, you know, and because it is still something that is, you have to go to college to get a really good job, and somehow in that conversation it translates to get the most amount of college that you can get. Go get your master's, go get a doctorate. And some of those questions that we've started to propose to those students is, why? Where in this work? And we are promoters of education. You know, that's my job. I'm not going to tell you not to go to college, but, you know, to make sure that they're being intentional about some of these decisions. And so it erases a lot of this, I thought I had to, or I didn't know if I had to. So that national education attainment level is something that we really make sure our students in those dual enrollment programs are tapping into, to make sure that if they can get a job with just the associates, or you're more marketable with a master's, than to do this, because we don't want them to leave disillusioned about, I've got a master's degree, but I'm, you know, can't get a job, and so what that means. And so these are some questions and how we're using Career Coach to make them more intentional about some of those decisions.
Very good. Adam, any response to that, or different questions that you've seen come up?
Yeah, Career Coach, it's led us to an entirely different conversation in that what responsibility do we have as a college to explain our programs and the job opportunities to students. So the next step for us in this process is that we're gathering this data from 8th grade to juniors in high school and seniors. So now we're gathering this data. If we see a trend of students that want to be a computer programmer, or excuse me, want to be a video game programmer, right? Which all students want to be video game programmers. And once we see that, how do we go from that to what skills are we going to highlight that lets them realize that cybersecurity might be the right fit for them, right? So we're starting to take the data from the backside of Career Coach and looking at that data, and then figuring out how to promote the programs at the college and what skills cross over between those two, so that students don't have to figure out that they're interested in some of these programs. It's just we're creating that fit for them, and we're creating it earlier.
Very good. Thank you. We had a couple of questions from the audience. The first one, this is going to go to you, Michelle. South Texas Career Coach certified? If so, what sort of certification program do you guys select? So are you actually certifying the folks that are doing the career coaching?
You know, for the most part, we do, they go through sort of like an academy process, you know, and they will get a certificate through attending those academies, and it's sort of like a college knowledge academy. So it brings forward some of the policies and procedures that may be changing, and then, you know, how the programs at the college are offered, or if they're part of those dual enrollment programs. So we present to those groups, and through those academies, they do receive sort of like a certificate as a college ambassador for the programs.
Very good. The second one is Career Coach multilingual? I'll answer that from Emsi Burning Glass's side. It is not multilingual, but Michelle, I'd be curious, given you have a 95% Hispanic population, what have been some of the challenges and how have you overcome using Career Coach with it not being bilingual?
Well, we have to be bilingual. So it has just been a little bit more of communicating with those students, with those parents. And so when we're presenting this, you know, we're ready to do that both in English and Spanish to make sure that importance of the assessment and how students are making decisions isn't lost on them. It's something as simple as helping them understand that we're here for them, that this is a total investment for all of us at the college. So there's nothing in place yet as far as developing our own content to do that, but we're happy to have these efforts put forth, because it's a matter of bringing the parents into those conversations, especially as critical as dual enrollment, as they start to make those decisions in 8th grade. We have to be ready to do that, so we are.
Very good. Well, that that wraps up what we have for everyone today. I would like to open the floor for you, Adam and Michelle. Any closing comments or encouragements as we look to drive enrollment into that K-12 space and those traditional age students? Any encouragements that you'd like to give?
I'll go first, just because I talk so much, guys. But I think that, I think the work of career services, is amplified by something like Career Coach. We don't do anything without that being at the forefront, because we know that's where the conversations are happening at home. We know that these are conversations that people had all year through 2020. It's the #1 motivator, and so we have to be at the center of those conversations. And so if we're not sure how yet to do that, it's a matter of asking questions. It's a matter of connecting with our students where they are, and just be excited about the work. There's so much power behind career services. This coupled with Emsi, we can be enrollment drivers. It's going to evolve the work of career services. So thank you so much to Emsi and Burning Glass to help us make sure that we can be part of those conversations.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I think Career Coach is a fantastic tool in that it gives you back as much as you put into it. So however much that you're willing to have your faculty buy into it, your local schools, we're even working with workforce development here in Cheyenne. They use our resume builder tool. It really is, it's a fantastic tool that when we first started, it was just a checkbox to do before people applied, right? And it really is a tool that if you work with the group and you work with the people at Emsi Burning Glass and brainstorm with them, they really can come up with some amazing ways for you to figure out how to use the tool to serve a lot of different populations.
That's excellent. Well, thank you both. We appreciate you as thought leaders and just sharing your experiences and sharing how you're reaching those student populations in the high school and even lower. If you'd like and you're inclined, I would definitely connect with Michelle and Adam on LinkedIn and find out what they're doing professionally. And if you have any follow-up questions specific to them about how they're using Career Coach to do this, I would invite you to do that as well. If you have any other questions offline that you'd like to hit me up on, feel free to shoot me an email. I'd be happy to have a chat with you. So thank you all. Adam, Michelle, thank you very much for your time today, and we appreciate you, and everyone have a wonderful day.